Hey guys, it has been a while since I've done a Top 5 Tuesdays. If you're new here to my channel, this is a series that I do with the Glam Dr. Mona Khan. She's another YouTuber here and a very good friend of mine, and we've been doing this for a very long time. I want to say at least a year and a half at this point. We have over 50 Top 5 Tuesday episodes up. I will link down below in my description box, like a link to my Top 5 Tuesdays playlist if you're interested in checking out some other ones. So we're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite face palettes, and we've done this before. So this is going to be more, at least for me, I'm not exactly sure how Mona's going to be approaching this, but this is going to be like my top 5 favorite face palettes of recent releases. I'll say of 2019 so far, because there's been quite a few, and there are definitely some standout ones that I really enjoy. When I initially started getting back into makeup, what I sort of considered as a face palette was something that had a highlighter, a blush, and a bronzer. And since then, I feel like the idea of a face palette, at least for me, has kind of morphed and changed a little bit. I feel like now it's basically just a palette that is multi-purpose or that's multi-use, but has more than just like 1 or 2 products in there. It really has to have at least, I think in my mind, at least like 3 products in there to make it a face palette. So that's pretty much how I define a face palette. Let me go ahead and start with the one that I was just going to say, if I had to pick a favorite out of these 5, this would be the one. Maybe. I do really love, I love all of these, but this one is very special to me. The Natasha No No Bloom palette. So this is her blush and glow palette. So there are 2 cream products in here and 2 powder type products in here, basically for your cheeks, blush and highlight. And I think you can use, especially these 2 products down here, you could use on your eyes for their highlighting properties. If you want to kind of highlight the inner corner of your eye, or if you just want to do like a halo eye, you can put one like right in the middle of your eyelid. So this definitely is a very multi-purpose palette. What I love about this palette so much is basically how surprising all of the products in here are. Like this blush in here, this cream blush in here, while it looks just really red in the pan, when you put it onto your cheeks, it really turns into something more of like a raspberry flush. Of course, you have to use a little bit of a light hand, but because it's a cream product, that's pretty easy to do. You can use a brush, which is actually my application tool of choice. I'll use a brush like this Cheek number 5 brush from Refer, something that is cream, obviously cream friendly. I really like how diffused a brush applies cream products, and this one especially. If I use a sponge, I feel like what I'm doing is kind of just stamping the color in these areas, and then I spend the entire time kind of like blending it out and making it look seamless, and it never really does. I kind of have to go over it with my finger again. With a brush, I find that it actually works really nicely without too much effort blending it out. It applies it in a very diffused way to start with a brush. So that's my application tool of choice for this blush especially. And so this product is definitely like the coolest toned product in here. All the rest of these have a very strong peachy undertone, but they all work really beautifully together. And if you watch any of the Natasha No No videos where she uses this, she pretty much uses these as a base and then these 2 products kind of all over. It's like she's very generous with the products. And this product I think is definitely meant more as a blush, and this product is meant more as a highlight. They're just really beautiful. They just make your skin just glow, like glow from the heavens. Like Natasha No No Glow, as you know, she's not shy about a glowy complexion. So this is just a lot of fun in terms of like a face palette. It makes me happy every time I see it, every time I open it up. I feel very inspired to use it. I feel very inspired to kind of play around with the products. And I like that. I really like that when it comes to makeup. And it's so fun and flirty, and it's so great for spring, summer. Like these colors are so great for spring, summer. That is the Bloom Blush and Glow palette from Natasha No No. And then I had to mention her Tan Bronze and Glow palette. So this is basically a bronzy version of the Bloom palette. And this has like 1 cream product, and then this is kind of like a cream to powder type product. I wouldn't say that this is totally a powder product. I mean, I think it behaves like one, but when you swatch it or when you feel it with your finger, you'll feel that it's extremely creamy. This is definitely more of a typical kind of pressed powder product, this blush and bronze powder, and then this Glow Impact powder. This is like a baked product, so this goes on really sheerly and beautifully. And again, much like the Bloom palette, like all of these products, while I find they have very different undertones, they all work really beautifully together. Like this is like a cool neutral. This is also kind of a neutral. This is very, very warm. You see that gold undertone in there, but they work really beautifully together. I love all the different textures. Like, again, just like the Bloom palette, every time I open this up, I just want to play with it. You know, it just inspires me to use it, to use the products in a different order, to use different products paired with other ones in here. Like, it's just a lot of fun, and I've been enjoying this a lot. This blush and bronze powder, I won't lie, is a little bit deep for my skin tone. So as long as I use a very, very light touch with this product, it's great. It works beautifully. So this is another one I'm a really big fan of. These two palettes, she really outdid herself with these. I really love them. The next face palette is the Guerlain Terracotta Contour and Glow palette. This one I just mentioned in my favorites because I really like this center bronzy tone. It's very, very natural. It's a beautiful kind of like light toned, neutral kind of shade for my skin tone. I can brush it all over, like I can be really, really generous with it, and it just gives my skin a really nice glow. But if I want something a little bit more dramatic, I can go in and use this kind of as a contour, sort of along the edges of my face, like the perimeter of my face, and really kind of use it to chisel out my cheekbones. So this is great for that. And then these two products have a really nice sheen to them, a really nice high shine to them, this blush and this highlighter. Very, very pretty, and they add such a beautiful flush to the cheeks. My only complaint is that they're in this split pan. So thankfully, both products kind of have a sheen to them. It's not like this blush is matte. This highlighter is sheeny. So it's not too much of a problem if you get your brush in both, but I really would have preferred if they maybe made them like maybe like half size like this and made like this the blush and this the highlighter, something like that, so that they were in two different pans. I would have preferred that, but that's a very minor complaint from me. This palette for me is sort of like, when I look at some of the other picks I have, like this is the least complicated, if you will. They're pressed powders. They're a very familiar kind of formula. There isn't any learning curve. You go in with a brush, you brush it onto your face, and that's it. These two products are a little bit harder pressed than pressed powders that I'm used to, but I think because they're bronzers, I'm okay with that. A really soft bronzer can be very intimidating to use because you can go in a little bit too heavy too easily, and with a bronzer, I really like the option of building up versus trying to tone it down with like other powders or, you know, or buffing it out or whatever. So I kind of appreciate the fact that these are pressed a little bit harder in the pan. So I've really been enjoying this, and I really like the terracotta fragrance. It's very beautiful. It's very summery to me. I know it bothers a lot of people, and I don't blame you, but it is present in this face palette, so I wanted to mention that. So that is number 3 on my list. So the 4th palette on my list is the NARS Summer Lights palette, and this is the only palette, the only palette on my list that actually has like eyeshadows in here. Of course, you can use any of those powders as eyeshadows, especially bronzers you can use as a transition shade very easily, but this is the only one with like dedicated eyeshadows. So this came out with the Hot Nights palette, and this is the one that is a little bit cooler, and the eyeshadows have like a purpley and pink toned shadow in there, and the Summer Nights is a little bit more, you know, bronzy. So I've just been reaching for this one a little bit more than the Hot Nights, which is the only reason why I'm mentioning this one versus that one, but I really do like both of them. The formula in both of them are the same, and it's the formula in here that I really, really enjoy. The formula is very, very smooth and buttery and pigmented and blendable. Like, this is a wonderful NARS formula, and I hope they bring out products with this formula more often, because this formula was definitely different, at least in my experience. This was definitely different than a lot of the other NARS products that I've tried, but this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. I think it works beautifully, and I think the color story is really pretty. And just like those Natasha No No palettes where there's all these different tones, like undertones in there, yet they all work together, I feel like I can say the same thing here. Like, we have something fairly neutral to something fairly cool, and then these are very warm tone shadows. This one's maybe a little bit more neutral leaning, but this is a very, very warm toned eyeshadow, and they all work really beautifully together. So I have really been enjoying this Summer Lights palette. And then last but not least is the Charlotte Tilbury Love Gasm palette. So this one is the darker of the two. There's Light Gasm and Love Gasm, and I never reach for the Light Gasm, even though I feel like that's probably more skin tone appropriate for me. But this one I just enjoy so much more. I love these two shades in here. These two are probably a little bit too dark for me. If I use a light hand with this bronzer, this is okay. But this is just, it's a little bit too gold for me in terms of just like a highlight on my cheeks, but I can use that on my eyes. But these two cheek products are so beautiful, and that's why I always reach for this one. But I will say I use this palette probably the least out of the other ones that I have mentioned. And not because I don't love it as much, but because all of the products in here, except for this, these three products in here are so glowy. Like, they're really kind of like special occasion glow. Unless, of course, that's what you like every day. By all means, wear it every day. But for me personally, it is very glowy. So I feel like I use these in the evening. Like, I'm not going to do a Starbucks run and put these on. So this is definitely a special occasion palette for me. And that's why I feel like I use it the least, but it is so beautiful. Like, if you really want a glowy cheek, this is the way to go. Definitely let me know what some of your favorite face palettes have been, maybe over the past 6-9 months. It's like, what have you been loving? I was tempted to mention the Chanel bronzer highlighter duo, but that's only 2 products, and I feel like to call something a face palette, it just has to have more products than that. I feel like 3 is the minimum. So anyway, don't forget to check out the Glam Dr. Mona Khan's video and her channel. Let her know I sent you over there, and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I'll see you in my next video.